put it into the graph result to grind it out.
There it is! That is the final whistle! They are known for sea and sand. They are known for the wind and the waves. And now the parish of St. Anne will be known as the home of the Jamaica Premier League champions. It's now in his hands and his destiny! And he's done it! These kids have done it again! The youngest squad in the league are the champions in the land!
So what will happen in the third act? Well, we try to answer all that and more on this Super Final preview show. Yes, people, welcome back to JPL Final, and after 9 grueling months, it's finally time for the Super Final. I know you're not having a double take or a triple take, it's actually the same two teams that has been here in 3 years in a row. It is Cavalier taking on Mount Pleasant. So what can we expect from the third matchup between these two teams at this stage of the season? Well, tactically, I don't expect much to change. If you watched last year's final, kinda expect a similar blueprint as what's going to happen at this time around. This is mostly because of Mount Pleasant themselves. On the top of Whitmore, we don't really see them alter their way and style of playing too often in these last 2 years. And while they have greatly bolstered their squad, their style of play largely remain the same. So expect them to come out in a 4-3-3, expect the likes of Sule McCullough to start at right back but invert into midfield, and expect them to try dominate possession, and of course expect them to try get the ball to their talented wingers as soon as they can to take on their opposing fullbacks in 1v1s and hope to create the chances from there. So pretty much what we saw in the semi-final against Montego Bay United, as well as pretty much what we saw, yes, even in last year's final against Cavalier. The difference this time though, I believe Top-Offs finally found his plan B in Siobhan Walsh, who is a true target forward who can come in and switch up things if the regular style is simply not working. And of course, he does have that option to throw Walsh in from the very beginning, but Tapa does like his team to play a certain way, and I just can't see it deviating from that, at least to start the match. So I think they will be just as good going forward. They may need to quicken their tempo up much more than they did against Montego Bay, of course, but look out for the same old from Mount Pleasant. So does that mean you shouldn't expect any surprises? Well, I wouldn't go that far, because Tapa did throw us for a big loop in the last final last year, where he threw in Shani James into the starting lineup out of nowhere. So we may see 1 and 2 personnel surprises instead of tactical switch-ups. So if Tapa is now stubborn in the way he likes to play, what about Rudolph Speed and Cavalier? Honestly, they're the polar opposite of Mount Pleasant. It's quite funny from the way they play their football to how they construct their squad. What I mean by that as well is that Rudolph Speed is a very adaptable person that adapts his team style depending on his opponent and as well as the occasion, and he could very well be doing the same again for Friday night. But he may be forced to continue playing as how we've been seeing them in the playoffs so far. His squad was always a thin one, but with the recent absentees of some of their key players, especially on the bench, he may be forced to keep a similar lineup than what you saw against Arnett Gardens, which would probably mean that not so fit Shaquille Stein starting up front and probably see the same midfield pairing of Watson and Allen in the middle. But what about their tactics to possibly approach a game? Well, what I saw more pleasant in their game against Montego Bay, the very few times the Montego decided to launch high balls and go direct, they caught out the more pleasant defense just enough to cause a little bit of danger. And then, of course, as I said to you, if you go back to last year's final, when Cavalier were pragmatic and take up some of the pressure before they launch long passes into the channels at the fullback positions. They especially target the right side of the fence, where McCullough will leave vacant as he will invert come inside the middle. And if you think about it, who is currently on the hottest form right now and generally occupies that space in the Cavalier's attack? Yes, you guessed right, Dwayne Busy Atkinson should be there ready to receive those long passes to cause some damages, so it'll be very interesting to see what would be Tapa's best plan against that possible attack. You could argue that they already have the answer in their recruitment of Kyle Ming. Not only, of course, he's a former Cavalier player, so he's used to their style and play, but he is one of their better defenders to defend in spaces in a one-on-one against a trickster like Dwayne Busy Atkinson. So you can see he's having his hands full on that right centre-back position on Friday night. But that is all attacking in terms of Cavalier. What about the defensive side of things? I will admit I've been Cavalier's harshest critic when it comes to their defense all season long, but they have shown in the playoffs, especially that game against Arnett, that the defense can really step up when the time calls for it. My only worry for them is that despite the numerous low-scoring games and clean sheet they have got recently, they still award their opponents a little bit too many shots at goal, and that can harm them against a clinical team like Mount Pleasant. Alright, let's move on to the key players for the matches for both teams, of course. I will start with Mount Pleasant first, and I will start with their main striker, Raheem Edwards. It is safe to say that his confidence may be at an all-time low, especially after those crucial matches against Montego Bay, but it's clear that he is Tapper Whitmore's #1 choice for leading the attack. And while he may not have the best run to the end of the season, he's still a dangerous forward when he gets his head right. Okay, the other player I want to highlight, of course, for Mount Pleasant is, well, the youngster Franco Celestine. He has been so good, and I mean so good, that he got many questioning if this kid is even 16. He has already proven he's one of the best wingers, especially in 1v1s. And remember what I said about how Mount Pleasant like to play? They try to work the ball quickly enough to have their wingers in those 1v1 scenarios as often as possible. So I expect a really great battle between the young Haitian and Christopher Ainsworth there on the right hand side. Alright, the last player I want to look at as a key player for Mount Pleasant is a person I mentioned earlier before, and that's of course Kyle Ming. As I stated before, he's going to have his hands full, especially if McCullough starts on right back and inverts in, which means that a gap on the right hand side will leave Ming with a lot of space to cover and lock down on his very own, which will not be easy if you come against Busy on that side, who of course strive in open spaces. That battle might be key to determine exactly who wins on Friday night. Alright, that's Mount Pleasant. Let's look at the Cavalier players real quick. And of course, we just have to start with Dwayne Busy Atkinson again. What more can I say? He definitely has proven so far that he's the best player in the Caribbean, and his form is so good right now that anyone can stop him. The only worry you can have is how much gas he has left in the tank. Alright, the other player I want to highlight is their main striker, Shaquille Stein. Despite not being at his peak fitness, he showed in that last match against Arnett just how pivotal he is to the Cavalier attack. He is the shining beacon up front, and with him in the squad, they have a clear target to hit and start their attacks and have the knockdown provided for the likes of Calvin and Busy around him. I feel even if he has one working leg, Rudolph Speed is going to start him because of his great role and function in this Cavalier attack. Alright, and the last player I have to look at for Cavalier is of course their captain, Richard King. He may not have the greatest regular season, but in that match, especially against Arnett Gardens, he reminded everyone that he is an international representative for the Jamaica national team. He was just that good against Arnett Gardens, and you feel like he will be extra motivated to lead his team to another major title at the national stadium. Alright, before I get to predictions, let's look back on these guys' 3 meetings in the regular season. And honestly, just like last year, there's not much to read into these 3 matches that were played in terms of all things will pan out on Friday night. In their first matchup in October, the game ended 2-2, but if you remember, it was a game that Cavalier completely dominated for at least the first 70 minutes, going 2-0 up, before Mount Pleasant roared back to get a 2-2 draw in the final 6 minutes of the game. As for the second meeting at Drax Hall, Mount Pleasant simply wiped the floor with Cavalier, roaring to an easy 3-0 win. But it's hard to read into that result too much because on that day, Cavalier was missing several key players on their visit to Drax Hall. So what about their last meeting? It happened just 1 month ago, where Cavalier ended up winning 2-1 with a last-minute penalty kick from Richard King. Again, I wouldn't read too much into this result because Mount Pleasant made numerous changes to their squad after they already wrapped up the regular season crown. So maybe if you have to pick one of these matches that might have any bearing on the results of the final, you can use that first matchup at Sabina Park that ended 2-2, but even then I'm quite sure Mount Pleasant fans would remind me that their team have added lots of key pieces to the squad since then, of course in January, while Cavalier fans will remind me the likes of Richter's was not there for that much either. So saying all of that, what about the predictions for the game? I was under no doubt that Cavalier would be the winners in last year's final, but I cannot lie, this time my vision of the future is a little bit blurry. A lot of people did not even believe Cavalier would make it all the way back to this final in the first place, while many others were already crowning Mount Pleasant champions based on how they played over the 39 games. But in a one-off final, it's very hard to call, and while Mount Pleasant have the same weaknesses I see a bit of them last year, I also believe they got the right players to help shore up those issues against a team like Cavalier. But I've also been doubting Cavalier so much in these last couple games, and they keep on pulling off miracles. So I'll be a madman to doubt them once again. Honestly, it seemed like another 1-1 draw into extra time, and from there, I'm not sure, as the pendulum can swing to either side. Yeah, I know it sounds like a code answer, but honestly, after really think about it, that's all I got. Alright, but that is the super final preview. But before we run out of here, there is another match that's going to take place on the very same day, a match that is also pretty important, and that's the third place playoff between Arnett and Montego United. I won't go too much into what the tactical setup by each team should be and how they look to face each other, because I learned my lesson in last year's third place match between Arnett and Waterhouse. In that game, both teams are a lot more even on paper, and yet in the end, Arnett ran out with an easy 5-1 victory. What I learned from last year is that you come to these type of matches, it's all about motivation and how quickly a team can get into the right mindset after a crushing defeat in the semi-final just a couple days before. So it's going to come down to how much each player and each team really wants to win and get that third place spot. And they really should take it serious, of course, because if you want a ticket into the CONCACAF Caribbean Cup, this is your last chance to do so. The winner here gets a spot in the CFU Shield, which is a pre-qualifying tournament for the CONCACAF Caribbean Cup. That is the route Arnett took themselves to find a way into the same group as Mount Pleasant and Cavalier earlier this season. So I feel they're going to want it, they'll be up for it, but I also believe that the ownership over Montego United wants regional tournament very badly, so their players should also be taking it seriously and be up for the game. So that does leave me with the prediction, and I expect a very entertaining 2-1 victory for Montego Bay to grab that third place spot. But anyway guys, that's all I got for this final preview. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about my tactical outlook for both teams, as well as your prediction for both games that's going down on Friday night. But otherwise, thank you all for watching, and please like, subscribe and share as we look to keep you all up to date for, well, this Friday, because we're finally here at the finishing line. Otherwise, for great JPL content, you're already at the right place, JPL Fan. YouTube, big up yourself.